Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of James and Elena's English Chat. I'm James, and I am so happy you are joining us today.
And I'm Elena. It's wonderful to be back with you all. We have a very relatable topic to talk about today.
Before we get into that, a quick reminder for our new listeners. This podcast is specially designed for B1 and B2 intermediate English learners. We try to speak clearly to help you practice your listening skills.
That is right. And please remember to relax. It is perfectly okay if you miss some words or if you don't understand every single sentence. The most important thing is to follow the flow of our conversation. Just listen to the rhythm and the general meaning, and you will do great.
Exactly. No stress here. So, Elena, have you ever heard the term the Sunday scaries?
Oh, definitely. That is that heavy, anxious feeling in your stomach on a Sunday evening when you realize the weekend is over and a long, busy week is about to start. Why do you ask, James? Did you have a rough weekend?
I did. I had a classic case of the Sunday scaries last night. I was sitting on the sofa trying to watch a movie, but I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about my massive to-do list and all the emails I had to answer. It felt like a dark cloud was following me around the house.
I think many of our listeners know exactly how that feels. It is usually a sign that we are lacking balance in our lives. When our schedules are too full, our minds can't switch off.
You are so right. And because I was so worried last night, my Monday morning started like a total disaster. I didn't sleep well, so I woke up late. I was rushing around the kitchen trying to find the keys to the Blue Bullet, that's my old hatchback, while holding a full cup of hot coffee.
I have a feeling I know what happened next. Did the coffee stay in the cup?
Unfortunately, no. Barnaby, my clumsy golden retriever, decided that was the perfect moment to come over for a big hug. He bumped right into my legs and splosh, coffee everywhere. It was on my white shirt, the floor, and even on Barnaby's tail.
Oh no, poor Barnaby, and poor you.
The thing is, Elena, if I had been calm and balanced, I would have just laughed it off. But because I was already stressed about my schedule, that spilled coffee felt like the end of the world. I actually had to sit down for a minute because I felt so overwhelmed.
It's interesting how that works, isn't it? When we don't have enough mental space, small problems feel like huge mountains. I had a similar moment at my community garden allotment last week. I found that some slugs had eaten all my new lettuce plants. Normally, I would just plant more, but because I'd had such a busy week, I just felt defeated. I almost wanted to give up on gardening altogether.
It really shows that finding balance isn't just a luxury, it is essential for our daily happiness. If we don't manage our time and our stress, we can't handle the little surprises that life throws at us.
I couldn't agree more. Today, we are going to explore why we feel this way, and more importantly, how we can find that balance to protect our mental well-being. It's about making sure that a spilled coffee remains just a spilled coffee.
I'm looking forward to it. Let's dive into how we can turn those Sunday scaries into a peaceful Sunday night. It's funny how we think working harder always means getting more done. I've noticed that when I'm really busy, I start to think that every minute must be spent doing something useful. For example, last Thursday, I had a huge project to finish. I almost skipped my five-a-side football match because I felt like I shouldn't be playing while I had work to do. But then I realized if I stayed at my desk, I would just be staring at the screen without actually typing anything.
That is a very common feeling, James. We often feel guilty for taking a break. I remember this feeling from when I was a young girl. My parents were both very hard workers, but they struggled to switch off. I have this clear memory of us sitting at the dinner table, and although they were physically there, they weren't really with us. My father would get work calls during dessert, and he would jump up to answer them. They were constantly burning the candle at both ends.
Burning the candle at both ends, that's a great expression. It sounds like you're using up all your energy from the top and the bottom at the same time.
Exactly. It means you are working from early in the morning until late at night without enough rest. My parents thought they were being more productive, but in reality, they were just exhausted and stressed. They were mentally absent. The truth is, our brains aren't designed to be on all the time. Think about a professional athlete. they don't train for 24 hours a day, do they?
No, definitely not. If they did, they would get injured. They have very strict rest days so their muscles can recover.
Exactly. Rest is actually a part of their training. It is the same for our minds. We need what experts call white space. This is time in your day where you have no goals, no screens, and no tasks. It's just time for your brain to breathe. Without white space, we eventually hit a wall. We call this burnout, where you feel completely empty and unable to do anything.
I think even my dog, Barnaby, understands this better than I do. After a long walk where he's been running around and chasing his own tail, he comes home and sleeps for hours. He doesn't feel guilty about it. He knows he needs to recharge. But when I sit on the sofa for 20 minutes, I feel like I'm being lazy.
We can learn a lot from Barnaby. Last week, I was at my community allotment garden. I was trying to fix a wooden fence, and I was getting so frustrated because the pieces wouldn't fit together. I was working so hard, sweating and getting angry. Finally, I just stopped. I sat on my little bench and watched the birds for 10 minutes. I wasn't thinking about the fence at all. Suddenly, I realized I was holding the hammer the wrong way. Because I gave my brain that white space, the answer just appeared.
So the break wasn't a waste of time, it was actually the thing that helped you finish the job. It's hard to change that mindset though. I always thought white space was just another word for doing nothing.
It is doing nothing, but doing nothing is a skill. It allows your creativity to come back. When we are always busy, our brains are too loud to hear new ideas. If we don't find balance, that burnout wall is waiting for us, and that is much harder to fix than just taking a short break.
That makes so much sense. You know, my car is a bit like that. It's an old hatchback, and if I drive it for too many hours without a rest, the engine starts to make this very angry clicking sound. It literally tells me it needs a break or it will stop working entirely. Humans are clearly the same, but we don't always listen to the clicking in our heads.
We really don't. We think we can just keep going. That is why I started practicing what I call a digital sunset. It's my favorite way to draw a line in the sand between my work life and my personal life.
A digital sunset? That sounds very relaxing, like something you'd see on a postcard. But what does it actually mean in real life? Do you just watch the sun go down on your laptop?
Ha, not exactly. It means that at 7 p.m., the sun sets on my digital world. I turn off all work notifications, I close my laptop, and I often put my phone in a drawer in another room. It creates a physical and digital distance between me and my tasks. I used to be terrified of doing this, though.
I can imagine. I'd be worried that the moment I put my phone away, some huge emergency would happen. Did you feel like the world was going to end the first time you tried it?
I really did. I remember a few years ago, I went on a solo hiking trip in a very remote area. For 48 hours, I had absolutely no phone signal. At first, I was so anxious. I kept reaching into my pocket to check my emails, even though I knew there was no internet. It's like a nervous habit. But after the first day, I started to relax. I looked at the trees instead of a screen.
And when you finally got back to your car and turned your phone back on, was everything on fire?
Not at all. I had about 20 emails, but none of them were urgent. The world didn't stop turning just because I wasn't available to answer a question immediately. People either found the answer themselves or they just waited. That trip taught me that most emergencies can actually wait until tomorrow morning.
That's a big realization. I struggle with that phantom feeling too. Sometimes I'm in the garden playing with Barnaby, my golden retriever, and I'll feel my leg vibrate. I think it's a message, but then I realize I'm not even wearing trousers with pockets. It's all in my head. I'll be there holding his favorite tennis ball, but my mind is back at the office. I feel so guilty because Barnaby is just sitting there wagging his tail, waiting for me to be present.
That is exactly why the 7 p.m. rule is so helpful. It gives you permission to be just James again. When I'm at my community allotment garden, I have a rule: no phones. My hands are covered in mud anyway, so I couldn't touch the screen if I wanted to. That physical barrier of the mud helps me stay in the moment. You need to find your own mud, James.
I like that. Drawing a line in the sand, or the mud. But for people who have jobs where they feel they must be available, how do they start without feeling like they are failing at their career?
That is a great question, James. People often feel like if they aren't achieving something, they are wasting time. But we need to change how we define success. I have a friend of my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, named Robert. He is a very high-level executive at a big bank. He spends all day making huge decisions and looking at spreadsheets. He used to be very stressed until he started an amateur pottery class.
Pottery? Like making bowls and plates? I can't imagine a serious bank boss covered in clay.
Exactly. And that is why he loves it. He told me that at work, everything must be perfect. If he makes a mistake, it costs millions of pounds. But in his pottery class, he is terrible at it. He makes these lumpy, crooked bowls that sometimes collapse while he is making them. He said the first time a vase fell apart in his hands, he actually laughed. It was the first time in years he felt free because it didn't matter if he failed.
That makes so much sense. It's about doing something just because. I actually felt something similar last weekend with my old car, the Blue Bullet. The passenger door has been making a strange squeaking sound for months. I'm not a mechanic, far from it, but I decided to try and fix it myself.
Oh dear, how did the Blue Bullet survive your repairs?
Well, I spent 3 hours in the driveway with grease all over my face. Barnaby, my dog, was sitting nearby, looking at me like I was crazy. In the end, I didn't actually fix the squeak. In fact, now the window goes down a bit slower. But you know what? I didn't care. For those 3 hours, I wasn't James the podcaster or James the guy with a to-do list. I was just a guy trying to understand a machine. It was so relaxing because there was no pressure to be an expert.
I love that. You were rediscovering your non-work self. We often get so tied up in our job titles. When people ask, "Who are you?" most people answer with their job. "I am a teacher," or "I am an engineer." But you are also a dog owner, a football player, and a terrible car mechanic. Those parts of you need air to breathe too.
It's like we have a work identity and a human identity. But why is it so hard to keep them separate? Sometimes I feel guilty if I'm just playing with Barnaby in the park instead of answering a quick email.
It's because our society values being busy. But remember, your cat or your dog doesn't care about your productivity. My cat, Whiskers, certainly doesn't. When I get home, she doesn't ask if I finished my lesson plans. She just wants me to sit on the sofa so she can nap on my lap. To her, I'm just the person who provides warmth and food. Embracing those simple roles helps us realize that our value doesn't come from our output at work.
So the secret is to find a hobby where it's okay to be bad, something where the goal isn't to be the best, but just to exist in the moment?
Precisely. Whether it's lumpy pottery, a squeaky car door, or a messy garden, these hobbies remind us that we are human beings, not human doings. It gives your brain a chance to reset. When Robert goes back to the bank on Monday, he is actually better at his job because he spent Saturday being a messy potter.
That was such a great conversation, Elena. I feel much more relaxed already. But before we finish, I think we should look at some of the interesting phrases we used today. It is time for our language spotlight.
I would love to. We used some very common expressions that are perfect for our intermediate learners. Where should we start?
Let's start with the one I mentioned at the beginning, Sunday scaries.
Ah, yes. You said you had a classic case of the Sunday scaries because you were thinking about your to-do list. The Sunday scaries is that feeling of anxiety or nervousness people get on Sunday evening when they think about the work week ahead. It's like a little cloud of worry.
It definitely felt like a cloud. How else could someone use it?
Well, you might hear a friend say, "I can't enjoy this movie because my Sunday scaries are starting." Even my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, gets them before her Monday morning bridge club because she wants everything to be perfect.
Next up is a phrase you use to describe your parents, to burn the candle at both ends.
Yes, I said they were constantly burning the candle at both ends. This means to work very hard without enough rest, usually by waking up very early and going to bed very late. You are using up your energy from both directions.
That sounds exhausting. What's a fresh example?
You could say, he has been burning the candle at both ends by studying for his exams all night and working during the day. It's a warning that someone needs to slow down.
And if they don't slow down, they might experience the next word on our list, burnout.
Exactly. I mentioned that without white space, we hit a wall called burnout. Burnout is a state of total physical or mental exhaustion. It happens when you have been stressed for too long and you feel like you have nothing left to give.
Like my car engine clicking when it's too hot. How can we use burnout in a sentence?
You could say, after working 3 months without a day off, she suffered from burnout and had to take a long break. It is quite a serious term.
To avoid that, you suggested we unplug. I think you mentioned it during your hiking trip.
That's right. To unplug means to disconnect from technology, like your phone, the internet, or social media. It's about turning off the digital world to focus on the real world.
I like that. Can you give us an example?
Sure. On the weekends, I like to unplug and spend time in my garden without my phone. It's a great way to recharge your brain.
We also talked about drawing a line in the sand, which is related to our next word, boundaries.
Yes, boundaries are the limits we set for ourselves to protect our time and energy. It's like a rule that says, this is for work and this is for me. In the transcript, I talked about setting physical and digital distance.
So how would I use that word with a boss or a friend?
You might say, I need to set better boundaries and stop answering emails after 8 p.m. It's about knowing when to say no.
Our final term is one that perfectly describes my attempt to fix the blue bullet, trial and error.
Yes, even though you didn't say the exact phrase, your story about the squeaky door was a perfect example of trial and error. It means trying different methods to find a solution, even if you make mistakes along the way.
I certainly made a lot of errors. How can we use this in a sentence?
You could say, I learned how to bake bread through trial and error. Last month, I tried to bake a cake for my niece Sophie. It was way too hard the first time, but through trial and error, the second one was delicious.
Those are 6 fantastic terms for our listeners to practice. Thank you, Elena, for making them so clear.
You are very welcome, James. It's always fun to look at the language behind our stories.
That was such a helpful summary of those words, Elena. I feel like I have a real toolkit now to talk about my busy life and how I'm feeling. It makes it easier to explain why I might be a bit stressed sometimes.
I am so glad to hear that, James. Today was really about understanding that our brains need time to breathe. We discussed how having white space helps our creativity, why we shouldn't feel guilty for taking a break, and how hobbies, even if we aren't very good at them, help us feel more human.
I am definitely going to remember what you said earlier, that rest is a requirement, not a reward. I always feel like I have to earn my rest by finishing a long to-do list. But after our chat, I realized that I should play with Barnaby just because it's good for both of us, not because I finished my emails.
Exactly. Balance is not a destination where you arrive and stay forever. It's a journey. Some weeks will be busier than others, and that is okay. The important thing is to notice when your engine is clicking, like your old car, the blue bullet, and to give yourself permission to stop.
I love that. So for our listeners who want to start this journey, do you have a practical suggestion, a little homework for the week?
I do. I have a small challenge for everyone. I call it the 2-hour phone break. I want you to pick just one evening this week and put your phone in a completely different room, maybe in a kitchen drawer or under a cushion, for 2 hours. No checking messages, no scrolling.
2 hours. That might feel like a lifetime for some people. What should they do instead?
Anything that isn't digital. You could try a new recipe, read a chapter of a book, or even just sit in the garden and watch the birds, like I do at my allotment. Use that time to be fully present in the real world.
I'm going to try it tonight. I'll leave my phone in the kitchen and spend 2 hours playing in the garden with Barnaby. We would love to hear how you get on with this challenge. Did you find it easy or was it a struggle? You can share your experiences with us on social media.
We really enjoy reading your stories. And if you found this episode helpful, please leave us a comment or a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other English learners find our show and join our community.
That's right. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. We have a lot more interesting topics coming up soon.
Thank you so much for listening today. Remember, you deserve to rest just as much as you deserve to work. Until next time, take care of yourselves.
Goodbye, everyone. Say hi to Whiskers for me, Elena.
I will, and give Barnaby a big pat from me. Goodbye.
Bye.